Welcome to SEFAA Soundbites, your quick pulse on all things multifamily, brought to you by the Southeast Florida Apartment Association. The Southeast Florida Apartment Association podcast and the views and information shared in this episode are provided solely for general guidance, informational, and educational purposes only, primarily for professionals in the multifamily housing industry. The views expressed by hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the Southeast Florida Apartment Association. This podcast does not constitute legal, financial, or operational advice. Listeners should follow their own company's policies and standard operating procedures, and, when needed, seek professional counsel before acting on any topic discussed. So, grab your coffee, plug in, and let's get prepared. This is SEFAA Soundbites.
Welcome. Summer has arrived and the topics are heating up. We're back with another episode of SEFAA Soundbites, the official podcast of the Southeast Florida Apartment Association. I'm your host, Deborah Coleman, and I'm ready to bring you hot on the press topics designed to inform and inspire multifamily professionals. Everyone knows summer is always busy for our management members. With that in mind, today we're diving into surviving peak leasing season without burning out, sharing how professionals manage to stay afloat throughout a busy leasing season, alongside Carolina Perez and Leo Ochoa. So please tell us a little bit about yourself, Leo.
Hi, everyone. My name is Leo, of course. I'm the multi-site assistant community manager for AMLI Residential in the Miami area, Wynwood/Midtown. I have about 8 years with the company. I started off in SoCal as a leasing professional with them and made my way over to SoFlo to help with an acquisition and got promoted to the multi-site assistant community manager. And here I am with you guys today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Carolina, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. First, thanks for having me. I'm Carolina Perez. I'm with Concierge Property Solutions. I manage Comps and Place apartments in the East Boynton Beach area as the property manager. I enjoy what I do. There's multifamily is definitely a diverse community, and I appreciate that no 2 days are the same.
Wonderful. Well, we're glad you've come to South Florida, and thank you both for being here with us today. So now let's dive in. This is SEFAA Soundbites. So let's start with the first question, which I'll address to you, Leo. What hits first when peak season starts?
Peak season. I say one of the biggest factors that you kind of start seeing is that your calendar books up a lot faster. You probably have a lot more back-to-back tours throughout your day. You maybe experience a little bit more of faster move-ins. I also see that we also have a lot of realtors or prospects who are calling the office, maybe saying, I need to get in today. Like, can you tour me today? I have to move out by next week, so on and so forth. So you kind of have that pressure also of, do I go with the calendar that's scheduled appointments, or do I also assist someone else who's trying to get in the same day if I'm booked for the day? And then lastly, I would say there's a lot of prospects who have specific requirements for their apartment. Oh, I need to be facing a certain direction. I need the walk-in closet. I need this. I need that. And usually during peak season, you don't have as much availability, or it's not available for the time frame that they need. So that also can be a little bit of a factor that you start realizing, like, if you could push your move-in date back 2 weeks, then I have the perfect appointment for you. But if not, then I'm so sorry. So
it sounds like the pace super picks up, and then there are a lot of moments of decision as you're moving through that pace.
Absolutely.
Like within the office, also with prospects, and also even with like realtors and other people that are trying to drive their business. And
on top of that, you're still dealing with residents who are popping in to, need assistance with a package or being locked out, and you're trying to get all of that working and flowing and give everyone the best customer service that you can.
And I would assume everyday business is going on, which is you probably still have suppliers knocking on the door. You still have everything that goes on in a daily world of leasing to begin with.
Absolutely. You definitely feel the rush pick up a lot, especially usually after, I want to say, the holiday season. It's kind of, the office is a little bit more, you feel like it's just the staff and you're kind of maybe helping residents more, and all of a sudden it's like, bam, the next day, the phone's ringing like crazy, the emails are going off. So it's really interesting to see. And I think that you just got to stay prepared. You know what's coming. So as a team, you got to prepare for it.
when you were answering the question, you mentioned also you can't always meet everybody's needs in the moment in time that they need it. So Carolina, I would ask you like a follow-up question to that. Is this an important time to have relationships with properties in the neighborhood? Like, do you start working together with other communities to see if you can help each other, or how does that work?
So in our particular property, we understand that today's renter wants what they want. At the end of the day, it's no longer a market where, oh, it's just a rental, this is a short-term thing. The way that our climate is in South Florida, there people are looking for stability, but at the same time, price point is extremely important. So there is a nexus between meeting that demand and also trying to assist and ensure that we do what we can on our end to prepare for that demand. We know what's on the market. We know what surrounding communities are offering. We know what our pain points are. And that helps us to navigate the influx. And when it hits, we know it's going to hit. So there's a lot of preparation on the back end that goes into what's coming up, how fast can we turn, what's our capacity for our team realistically between our maintenance team, turns department, our leasing in office, having a broad idea. Like you said, we also have the daily stuff going on.
Right.
Seasonal as well. We have compliance to meet. So the leasing component kind of plops on top of everything else. Having relationships with vendors, with surrounding communities, even just having the relationship with other managers to be able to pick up the phone and say, I'm in a bind. This person was supposed to show up for a turn and they're fully booked. Who do you call? Those relationships really are the things that save you long term.
Right. And it sounds like two things that pop out for me with that. One, it's really important that your team be on their game.
Absolutely.
That everybody's done their research. They know their product. They know the surrounding product.
Yes.
They know what's going on. So there's prep before you get there to have that happen. And the other thing that I thought about is it also really matters that your partners, especially your supplier partners, are on their game, and that everybody is up and ready to get the job done in excellence, because there isn't a lot of room, especially based on what Leo shared. There's just not a lot of room for error. At that point, in order to have it all work.
Absolutely. And, that supplier relationship is critical, but also your relationship within your office. As the manager, you lead that team, you lead the culture, you lead the relationships. So let's say a supplier is behind, or, just everyone's impacted by world events. So having that ability to look ahead, if we have issues with, let's say, appliances, call up that supplier. Hey, I just heard X, Y, and Z is happening at this property, or I saw on the news X, Y, and Z. How are you guys prepared? Where are these supplies coming from? What's the lead time on delivery? And you'd be surprised how much easier it is, because on the supplier end, it's appreciated. Like, oh man, you're seeing my pain point as well. Let me help you.
Right. And it becomes more of a partnership.
It's relationship.
It's funny that you use appliances, because that's what I do. And I was thinking to myself when you were sharing how important the smallest thing is. It could be a microwave, but if that microwave is needed to get that apartment turned and have somebody move in at 12 o'clock today, and you call me at 9 a.m., I need to make that happen. I want to make that happen, because that's part of the flow of how we all work together. And when we work together in the busy times like this, it's much more challenging than in the slow times, but it's what it's all about. It's like why we create the partnerships.
Absolutely.
So on that note, I would ask you, Leo, do you find that there's a point where there is some overwhelm, like in this kind of scenario? Where does the overwhelm occur?
Yes, absolutely. I'm a heavy believer in, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready, right? So if during your slower season, your leasing agents are walking their vacants, walking the apartments, seeing what's happening, reporting things as they're going, then it's not a matter of someone's looking to move in tomorrow at 12 o'clock and you had no idea that the microwave wasn't working or the ice maker wasn't working. It's just like those factors really help your team stay prepared. So I would say staying cool, calm, relaxed, but also reporting everything that you see. We depend heavily on our leasing agents because they are the ones who see the product more than anybody else. They're touring all day long. So if you're walking into these vacants and you're seeing the light bulb is out, maybe a curtain fell or is not working properly, like reporting these things and like giving the maintenance team an opportunity to come and fix that, even if the apartment is not rented. So that way, when it does get rented for a move in the next day or 2 days later, it's ready and set to go.
Right.
So I believe that developing these habits during the slower season is a big key to preparing for the busy season.
Excellent point. And as you were talking, I was thinking that to myself, like having your teams trained and ready, and also the culture on the team and how we interact with our teams all the time. Because when it gets busy like that and the overwhelm can hit, that's when it's the most stressful. So if we've created that base already, we're able to handle the moments like that,
Right.
you know, where we're all working together to general. Mm-hmm. What would be something you would want to share about that I haven't asked?
As far as culture?
Yeah, as far as just the peak leasing season and the intensity of it.
Well, I completely agree with Leo. If your systems are not being worked on during our quote unquote slow season, because we don't really have much of a slow season.
Right.
It's more of an increase in operations at the end of the day, because it's not just leasing, it's operations as a whole.
Right.
But this peak season is what pressure tests. It pressure tests everything. It's your dynamic, it's your culture, it's your organization, it's your morale, your team spirit, your supply diversity, which goes a long way. We also want to establish, obviously, the relationships, but we also want to make sure that we're prepared to pivot when necessary and do so effectively. Because if your dynamic within that core group that you work with falls short, the entire operation feels it. So it's a balance, you know, there's a constant, and it's not static. What worked last year's leasing season may not work this year's leasing season. And that's something to always keep in mind as well, because the environment changes, the outside world changes, the needs change. Your current residents may have a desire to switch, you know, changes in their personal lives. So we always have to keep in mind, I've seen this in other organizations, so it's like peak season, you feel as a resident like it's all about the new people coming in.
Absolutely,
you know?
Yeah.
Whereas your core has been there already. Your team is going to feel that pressure. So also as leaders, we need to ensure and take a step back sometimes. It's okay to take a step back. Take a second to really look from the outside in and say, why did this happen? But beyond that, having the responsibility to stand up, to take ownership and say, hey, everyone, this is what happened. Here is where I take ownership, because now you're teaching. Just because I'm here and we're here and this is happening does not mean that it's about this person didn't and that person couldn't, etc. Or this supplier didn't show up. No, it all comes back into that core office. Mm-hmm. Keeping that in mind is critical.
Yes. And you know what I love the most about this conversation is that it reminds me and points out yet again that the property management companies and the suppliers in the Southeast Florida Apartment Association are committed to excellence. And it shows in this conversation with what we're committed to, all of us, and what we're generating. And it makes me so proud. Like when I know someone's going to look for an apartment, it's like, I know they're going into excellence in South Florida.
Yes.
So thank you. Course.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, now that we've talked about what makes peak leasing season so intense, why don't we talk about some of the ways we can save time during this rush and still keep the quality? So I would start with this question, Leo. What's one habit that saves you time during peak season?
One habit. This is actually a huge one for me. My team is like, oh my gosh, here you go again. But I'm a huge person on templates when it comes to emailing. So I have a template for almost every scenario situation you can think of. And this helps my team. Like, for instance, if you're done with a tour, you're sending them a template. And the template includes, for the prospect, what floor plans they saw, what were the move-in dates that it's available on, what are the extra charges they're going to have to pay for, utilities, parking, anything like that, cable, internet. So it's just simple click, the button, you send the person everything they need after touring with you. And then also, we have an almost home template, for instance. So before you move in, once you're approved, we send you this template. It's 5 things that you need to have before you get keys on move-in day. So it helps alleviate like stressing out coming to the office to pick up your keys. And now we're like, oh, did you get this? Did you get that? It's literally the 5 points highlighted. You need to bring this. You need to get your electricity set up, your cable. If you need to reserve a loading area or loading dock, do you have movers? And it helps the new tenants prepare for this so they can know, hey, I do have a moving company. I am moving from Tampa or from anywhere else, and I need to schedule this move out to move in. I believe it helps them prepare themselves for what's to come. And then lastly, one of our biggest things is our move-in FAQs. So basically in every apartment, we are trained to basically put a magnet sheet on the refrigerator, and it gives the information that someone may need for the first month until they get acclimated to the building. So it tells you your mailbox number, your parking spots, where to leave your boxes after you move in when you're breaking them down, where the package room is, how to let your guests in, all of those things, what apps you may need to navigate throughout the community. All of that's listed on this sheet. And it helps also the team because now you alleviate someone who just moved in. Maybe you had 6 move-ins in 2 days, and it alleviates them coming to the office to ask, what's my mailbox number? Where do I go where do my movers need to go? Oh, I was supposed to do this and do that. And it was like, no, all of that was already prepared for you before you even got here, before you even moved in. And so I believe it helps save the time for both the new resident and also for the leasing teams to have someone, people calling or stopping in and distracting from maybe tours that you're dealing with at the moment, or maybe you're dealing with an issue with a supplier or vendor, you need to hurry up. So it kind of helps alleviate that.
Yeah, it sounds like a win-win because, I can see how it would help the office, less people coming in and asking questions, less phone calls, but it's also an amazing tool for the prospect that's moving in because there's a lot happening when you're moving. Right. To have to remember everything. It's almost like a personal secretary that's saying, Absolutely. These are the things, like it's a to-do list that you're building for them. And yet it's saving everybody time. But I love the template idea. That's a great idea. I've used that as well. You can personalize it. You can take each one and make it your own, even if you have a different greeting you want to add, Correct. Or closing that you want to add, but it makes sure that you're not forgetting the important details Absolutely. Throughout the process.
Yeah. Because if people don't remember, I feel like, sometimes as you are touring as a prospect, you don't think about a lot of things that are going to happen after you're done touring. So that's why it's key that I prepare. Sometimes I've told people like, oh, do you want to grab a video of this apartment? Because right. You're going to see 8 other apartments today and you want to remember at the end of the day, which one was the one that had this, the washer and dryer or had the big balcony or the big terrace. And those things are sometimes helpful to the prospects that they don't even know that they're going to need. So templates that showing, again, every property has different set prices for utilities, parking, rentable items, and being able to refer back to where you were, what you saw, and what to expect is key for them to make the decision.
And it's just like the overwhelm that we discussed can happen in the leasing office. Right. That prospect also is facing overwhelm, going to 8 different places, having to have a timeline they have to move, having to put all their things together and remembering what to do. So It's a great tool, excellent tool. So to that same note, if you look at it the other way, what would you say the team should stop doing during that time that would contribute to a more efficient process?
You can't do it all at the end of the day. You cannot do it all. There is a desire to help your coworkers, but if everyone has a set of tasks, not saying that you can't fluctuate between different priorities, but if one person is in charge of making sure that these units are ready, that's that person's task. It helps to alleviate too many hands in the pot, which can break down communication. One thing that I particularly say all the time that they should be doing is rise above the noise. During this season, there are a lot of things that become noise in the background, and you have to be very keen on identifying what's a priority, what's the basis for this claim, what's happening, whether it's a new move-in or a current resident, and also being able to know what to prioritize. There are certain things that for us on our end, it's day-to-day stuff. For a resident or a prospect, it is immediate, end of the world, I need this yesterday. Being able to address those concerns without letting the other person's mental space invade yours is critical, because then you're able to troubleshoot. You're able to take a step back. You're able to assess the situation. And above all, and this is one of my things, hear what's not being said. A lot of times it's not, well, the fridge was smudged. It's something else. And that was a trigger. Being able to identify those things keeps you above water, and again, does not allow that person's mental clutter to invade your mental space.
Yes, great.
Which keeps you just going at the end of the day. In this industry, we know that we go through these changes and there's always something. So being able to mentally organize, to delegate, to have proper teamwork. If my leasing agent is out and my assistant or myself need to step and handle that front, we need to be prepared to do so. In our office, we don't operate on, that's not my role. So-and-so does this and that. Obviously, for compliance purposes and, to maintain compliance with fair housing, we know where each role stops. We're not going to overstep. However, your team's culture and being able and willing to step in and say, well, this person is busy with X, I can jump and man the front for a second. Or, hey, she's out touring, they'll be right back. How can I assist you? It keeps things moving, as opposed to, oh, I can't handle that right now. And then you're just adding to the backlog. That doesn't help anyone.
Yeah. And what really jumped out to me when you were sharing what you were sharing is how important it is. So we're a team. And sometimes we think on a team, we want to help another person on the team, but maybe we can help more by staying in our lane, because if each person is in their own lane in excellence, then the bigger picture, the sum of it will also be in excellence. Absolutely. Although there are times where you do need to jump in because it's wanted and needed. But so would you say, because we talked earlier about this as well, like how important is it to prepare your team from this aspect as well, which is, I know what I'm supposed to do. I know my lane. I'm really good at my lane. If I need support, I'll ask. And if you need support, I will step in where I can. But it's really important that all the parts are getting their job done in excellence.
Yeah, I would say, just to piggyback off of that, a few things that we implement that I was taught years ago was, don't ever leave your team in the unknown area. Well, if you're going to be out. So for instance, if I know I'm taking PTO, or maybe it's just my days off, I'm not knowing that I have 3 or 4 move-ins, maybe an applicant who's pending. I'm not leaving that day without informing my team, hey, this is what's going on with each move-in, each applicant, so that if the day that I'm off, those people come in, my team is able to go back to my email and refer and be like, oh yes, Leo said this. He said, oh, yep, I got it. No worries. And so just keeping your team informed to me is huge. And then also, like I said, templates, going back to the templates really quick, but it really helps because there's so many times, like I said, during a moving process, there's so many things you're trying to coordinate and schedule, right? You move out from the other building, moving in, utilities shut off at the other place, starting them here. And so in all of that, you do miss, what things you need. Oh, I'm supposed to bring a cashier's check for moving. Am I supposed to set this up? And now they're calling and, maybe it's someone I've never spoken to, but maybe my team, my partner, that's their move-in. But it allows me to go back and refer to what was sent to them on that email template and be like, oh, yes, here, I can re-forward it to you again. But by the way, the amount for your cashier's check needs to be this much, or FPL, or whoever the electricity company is or utility company. It allows me to go back and reference those things to be able to help even with my teammate not being there. And I believe from the outside, for that prospect that move in, they're thinking like, wow, thank you so much for helping me out. And I appreciate that despite that person not being there, they still got the assistance that they needed. So I think that's huge in that part.
Yes, and I would think that cutting back on that back and forth communication is a time saver, is one way to really make sure that things are going, smoothly and as good as they can. Because as was mentioned, you have current residents as well, right, that need attention and have things going on. And you have day-to-day operations that need attention, and everything needs to be flowing. So if we're duplicating work efforts or we're resending information that was already compiled, yes, and it's sitting there in the shared drive waiting, then we're using a lot of valuable time and energy and resources, yes, in that case.
So I wanted to add to what you said, Leo, and it makes me laugh when you say, the templates. For me and my team is there a note? Yes. I don't see a note. Is there a note?
I love that. Yes.
Please utilize your softwares.
Yep.
the best of its capability, utilize your software. Your software is not there for you to fight against it. It is there as a tool. If it's not in there, I personally don't want to look in the shared files. I don't want to look through email, logs, because things change. And in today's world, most people don't like to use a phone. And I understand the importance of having a written record, which email is fantastic. But if you receive a template and that inspires 10 questions, and that's now 10 emails plus 10 additional responses, that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So for my team, and I get the same thing. Here you go again. Is there a note?
Right.
I don't see a note. I don't care if someone comes in and says, I need a key. Came in and said they need a key. Because it's like you said, there's so much happening. We should not make it harder on ourselves.
Correct.
That easily derails. You want to talk about burnout? You're going to feel it.
Right.
So if, and like you said earlier, Leo, this is the time when you're quote unquote slow season, that is when those habits have to be set. It has to be, because what you do is going to expand on the faster pace. And this season is pressure testing everything. If you're disorganized, it's going to show. And you're going to feel the brunt end of it. You're going to feel the stress. We spend so much time in our roles, more than we do at home. It shouldn't be a place where you are constantly fighting for the small things. We have enough coming towards us. At the end of the day, we shouldn't internally be adding to it. For a prospect, one thing that stands out to me, and I've experienced this myself, if I see that my initial interactions, there's a lot of back and forth, that sets a tone for that property. It sets a tone for that movement. It sets a tone for that relationship with the office. Because at the slightest, when, let's say, my microwave doesn't work, that's what you draw upon. And it's just human psychology, because that's what you remember. You're fixating on, oh, this is why I knew it. This is what happened when I was moving in. And now look. So it's not just bringing a person in and managing the residents you currently have. It's setting that tone. And that's what speaks to your brand, to your culture, to your teamwork, to your leadership above all.
Excellent point.
And the same goes towards your suppliers. If you know that an order needs to be in by 3 p.m. cutoff, it has to be in by 3 p.m. cutoff. Because you can't push onto your suppliers. That lack of preparation does not become someone else's emergency at the end of the day.
There you go.
Yes. And so with that said, I think the inclination, the natural thing that we would do in our mind is we would prioritize the prospects and the move-ins, but we have shared how important it is, all these other aspects of our daily life. So I think what has really stood out here is the preparation prior to the peak season, right? Are my suppliers stepping up when I'm not in peak season? Is my team doing what they need to do? Are we preparing so that when this happens and we're in the peak season, we're setting the proper gradient on all counts? So how do you handle that flow? What is the priority? How do you have somebody that's focused on the residents, or how do you handle that flow? Is that just a matter of team effort again?
I would say it's definitely a divide and conquer, for sure. So, if there is someone from the team is going to walk the community in the morning to make sure that everything looks great for the tourists that we have scheduled for the day, then maybe you have the other person is calling every single tour scheduled for that day to ensure that they're coming, and B, what is that they're looking for. For me, a huge factor is if you have 7 tours scheduled for the day, and then you pick up that phone and you call, a lot of the times, maybe 2 or 3 of them may say oh no, that price point's not going to work for me, or you don't have what I need for the time frame that I need to move in. Never mind, can you either A, refer me somewhere else, or B, just go ahead and cancel my appointment? Because the worst thing that we can also do is not prepare for the day with what we see. So if I'm going to assume that all of my tours are showing up, and then they show up, and then there's someone who walks in who wants the tour, who needs to move in immediately. And I tell them, so sorry, I have to help this person out. I talk to this person only to find out that nothing that I have is going to fit what they need, then now I've kind of wasted my time, their time, and could have potentially maybe helped out someone else.
The person that was ready to move in walked away.
Absolutely. So I believe, we definitely have someone who walks the property, one who calls the tours for the day. I also believe as a team, we have to forward think. If we know that a busiest time to move in and move out is the beginning of the month, then knowing, hey, well, we have 7 move-ins on one day, but we only have 3 loading dock reservations to be able to move in and move out. Have we called ahead of time to communicate with them and let them know the importance of staying within their time frame, or just making sure. Sometimes people maybe start their lease on a certain date but don't move in for 2 or 3 days. But knowing that as a team is also important information for the maintenance team, for us as a team to know, hey, they're not going to show up that day either way. And another big factor I think that always gets missed is move-in appointments. So you're coming to move in, and there's probably a lot that you're dealing with, and you're extremely stressed. But setting that time to come in, hey, I'm going to see you from 11:30 to 12. I've blocked off for you just to give you time so that you can turn in everything to me. I can hand you over your keys, your moving packet. I can show you where you're going to be parking. All those things are important because things happen day of, or that where you're delayed. Or maybe you are moving from out of state and you've never seen this place. You're into this place sight unseen. All you went through was emails or through some videos that you maybe saw. And scheduling that time to get to know the property, get to know the team, maybe get a little bit more familiar is also important. So I think that as a team, we divide and conquer those roles to make sure that we're obviously attending to the residents' emails that are needing something, the people who are moving in, and the people who are coming to tour.
With many things in life, when we want to, reset, it's usually back to basics, right? Whether it's sports, whether it's, school, whatever it happens to be, let me get back to basics. And it sounds like a lot of the planning and the time management you're talking about, like, for example, if you know that the end of the month and the beginning of the month are going to be your busiest move-in times, then maybe in the middle of the month you do a resident event, or you check on your residents, or you have some sort of best practice in place to see that you're doing that, especially during a peak season. But having those basics all the time, as you have indicated, are very important, but they really shine. Just like other things shine, so will that. So just like my faults will probably shine during a period of peak period, my best practices will as well. So I think at the end of the day, we can hope that our best practices are the ones that shine brighter than the 100%. Others. But it sounds like a very excellent way to handle a peak time of the year. So Carolina, you mentioned burnout. That obviously is a risk during a peak time of the year. So how do you avoid burnout, like for yourself and also for your team, when the pace is nonstop at this time of year?
So it's important to recognize that we are more than our roles, for just in general. So being able to step back and say, there's a lot happening. I need to organize. I need to look ahead. Let me check my calendar. Let me check what's coming up, what's pending. What do we have as an organization as a whole? And being able to realistically raise your hand and say, there's a lot happening and I need to step away. Not only will you establish within your team that I feel what you feel, I get it. But at the same time, as a leader, you're able to come in and assess and say, let me just review myself. What's happening? Where we went wrong? If there was a recent move-in, what fell through? How do we learn from this? And taking that time to mentally prepare and think. A lot of our work, we know what we're doing. We've done it for very long. If you go to another property, it's just getting acclimated to that property's nuances. But we know what we're doing. However, being able to handle personal life and work and ensure that you are coming in as the best version of yourself, it's not just for your role, it's for your culture within your team. Because your people will feel it. Mm-hmm. If you're not okay, your people will feel it. And also, as a leader, you know these people. You know what their habits are. You know what their normal demeanor is like. So being able to say, if I'm feeling this, I need to check in with this person because I may be feeling a certain version or a certain level of the burnout, whereas for them, they may have a different coping mechanism, or they may have a way of dealing, or they can have an honest conversation with you because you're being honest. You're saying, hey, this is what's happening. You're never too high up that you can't come down to the basics, like you said. And making sure to check in with yourself. What are the things that you need to organize yourself mentally? Whether it's working out, a long drive, sitting by the beach, whatever it is. Take the time. It is there for you. Take it and maximize it. It also allows your team to function without you. And that's critical because you can be a great leader, but if you step away and the system does not allow you to step away, there is something to say there. So you need to do some digging deep within. Am I allowing these professionals to be a professional?
Right. Agreed.
Something very important that you mentioned to get to there is that it starts with me.
Absolutely.
It starts with me, and if I'm in reaction, right? If I don't reset, because I can reset rather than react.
Correct.
So when I reset and take care of myself, even if it's step back for 10 minutes and take a walk around the community while I process what's going on and how I want to handle that and come back in, and now I can work without reaction, that affects everybody else on the team.
Correct.
But I love too what you're saying is also the team needs to operate without me and do it well, but then also be aware of how things do affect those people and how can I support them. In order to do that, I have to take care of myself first.
Correct.
And that's so important. So with that said,
I was actually going to piggyback off of what you were saying
Please.
because you were hitting everything just right where it needs to be. And I would also add that as a leader, we know what to expect. We kind of know when that peak season is about to start. So notifying your team that it's also important for them to take their time off. So if we know, hey, collectively, like maybe it's March starts picking up or April, like take a few days to reset yourself with your family, your friends, whatever you need to do to be able to come back and hit busy season like hard. Because sometimes, unfortunately, your team is so focused on just work that they also don't realize like, oh, you're right, maybe I should do that before everything is a little chaotic. Or even maybe you know that you may need 2 days off during the busy season and giving your team that heads up a quarter before to say, hey, I need to take off the 4th of July weekend, or I have a family reunion that I need to go to. It's just being, obviously, to your team, you're thinking about your team in terms of, I don't want to leave you guys hanging, but if we're all prepared for it, then it helps everyone not burn out. We're noticing that, hey, you're taking the time off, you're more than your role, as you mentioned, and that's 1,000% what I would say. Or I remember my first time training for a leasing position. I remember my trainer told me, take your lunch break. Take your lunch break. And I was just like, what? Like, I'm used to previous roles. I would just work through lunch, not a big deal. But then I realized that, yes, it is important for you to step away, as you mentioned, whether it's going for coffee, for a walk, actually taking your lunch break, go sit in your car, just to get away for a second to be able to come back with everything that you have, all the energy that you have. So I think it's very, very important.
you know, and just like we talked about before, it's all of us as an industry. From the supplier side where I sit, it's the same thing for us. So this is going on. It's peak season. It means it's peak season in every area. And I'm getting calls, and each person, because it's very important to each person, is in panic and sometimes yelling at me, and sometimes, needing something yesterday or maybe.
Just so you know.
I do know that because I absorb with you. But, maybe they forgot to do something and now they're scared because it needs to happen. And so I need to also collect myself. If I just react to that may not look pretty. But if I step back, because sometimes personal reactions get in there. Like maybe I think, well, wait, they're yelling at me. Right. But then when I step back, it's like, wait, they're scared. They need to handle this. Let me get it handled. And I can come back with a solution-based answer and way of being. And I think that that's kind of what we're saying. Like when we're in the right mind and we're taking care of ourselves and we're taking our time off and we're taking our lunch, we're maintaining our ability to perform in excellence, we then are able to right, as a group. So I would ask, it's kind of a segue into my next question. I would like to ask both of you this question. So we'll start with you, Leo. What are things you do to motivate your team? Like not just during the peak time, but all the time, so that when you get to the peak time, everybody's ready to go.
I think one of my funnest things that I was introduced to was the weekly team meetings. And it was cool because you think of a team meeting, you think, oh, we're just going to sit here and discuss what everyone has on their plate. But like, why not make it fun? Right. So I remember we used to start team meetings with who has a dad joke, to start off this thing. And you kind of would go around and it became a competition of like who had the funniest dad joke, to start the team meeting. But it also allows your team to kind of connect because unfortunately, you're not going to see your maintenance team throughout the day as much. If it's a busy moving tour that you don't see your team members as much, but to be able to stay on the same page and to meet for whether it's 30 minutes, 20 minutes, and make sure you're all speaking and you're reviewing what the goals are for the week, for the month, and what's to come, I think that really helps the team kind of feel A, connected for a second, but B, feel informed and not feel that they're out of pocket in so many different things that are happening throughout the community. So I think that's very important for the leasing team to know what maybe projects the maintenance team are working on in the community. That way they can prepare if it's for a movement or for a tour. If you know there's being work at an amenity, you can tell your tour beforehand, hey, just a heads up, they're doing a little bit of, maybe landscaping or there's some repairs happening at the pool. So just before we get there, just wanted to give you a heads up. So I believe having that time to connect with your team is very, very, to keep them informed and also motivated in terms of what's to come. And hey, we need to hit X amount of leases this month and this is where we're at. This is how many more we have to go. And then as a team, you can be like, all right, how are we going to make that happen? And we can come together to kind of compromise what things we can do and brainstorm for that matter. Yeah.
Great. Carolina?
For me, it's very important to celebrate. You have to celebrate. We could have 2 birthdays in a month. We're going to celebrate 2 birthdays that month. And not only do your team members feel seen, but most of the time it's unexpected. So even though they know, and it's the same thing for whatever, whether we do a lunch, we cater something, decorate someone's office, their desk space, and it'll be the most random things. Like you could be walking in and someone's like throwing rice at you or like confetti. You could open your door and like everyone jumps out at you. Like those are the little things that stay with you because you're more than your role. And like you said, Leo, if you know that your maintenance team is taking on a project, everyone knowing what's happening keeps people in the know, in the loop. There's no surprises. There's also a way of showing like, hey, yes, you're in the leasing office. You have your set of stressors. This team also has their set of stressors. For both sides to understand and sort of, to a certain extent, almost cross-train in a way is very helpful because when you're on the receiving end, you can say, oh, I don't know exactly what this entails, but I know it's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives understanding. Also, just the encouragement, doing those, if you're not having a weekly meeting, just those one-on-ones. Calling a person into your office like, what's going on? But in a personal sense, because like I said, you work with these people and you come to know their habits, you come to know their demeanor. So we should never be in a position when we're touching in just because it's review time. Oh, something happens or I need to address X, Y, and Z. Do it from a humanity perspective. Those are the things that will keep people engaged. And it speaks to your leadership above all, because we're not just bolts in a machine. There are humans on the other end. There are people who have a unified goal, and everyone working together helps to make the process better for all involved.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone needs to be in the know-how, and they need to be seen individually.
And it's full circle, because if you think about all the things that we've talked about today, these are the things that make that possible, right? Because we talked about how important it is to build the basics and to build the team all year round and not just when we're in the peak of it. So these practices day to day, having the weekly sales meetings, celebrating the little things, celebrating the big things, understanding what each other is doing is what allows us to build the team that then can handle the peak time in excellence.
Yeah.
And what it also, again, reminds me of is we have such a heart in this industry. Like each role has such a heart. And I personally get to work the most with maintenance professionals on a daily basis. And I'm always struck by their heart for what's happening. They have such a heart and a care for each resident getting what they need to get the way they need to get it. And not just because it's their job, because they truly care. And almost any housekeeper or any groundskeeper I've ever spoken to, same thing. And obviously when we get into the leasing office and assistant property manager and regional and, all the way up the chain or down the chain as you want to, as you could look at it, right? Because we're really all serving the resident. It's really a huge heart for excellence, which is what we talked about today. So thank you so much for your time and your words of wisdom on these topics. That's a wrap for this episode of SEFAA Soundbites. A huge thank you to you, Leo Ochoa, and you, Carolina Perez. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your knowledge, and thank you for your heart to the industry and sharing your tips on staying on top during peak leasing season. If you like today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe to SEFAA Soundbites on YouTube or listen anytime at www.sefa.org by clicking the podcast section under the info tab. We'd love your feedback, so please leave a comment or share this episode with a colleague who could use a little industry inspiration. Thanks for listening. I'm Deborah Coleman, SEFAA's